This is the Football Show. Chelsea avoided a double defeat to Brentford this season thanks to Axel Disassy's late equaliser in their 2-2 draw. Chelsea dominated the first half. They led through Nicholas Jackson. Once again, though, started the second half, not very good. And consistency for Mauricio Pochettino's side. Why is that, Sue?
Well, I think you could say it's a young side. You can say that the players that have been bought are for potential, maybe not for the here and now. You could say that they've had injuries throughout the season, so they've not been able to maybe play a consistent side that Pochettino wants. Still without Reece James, who we've spoke about as being a key player for any side. And I think, the first half, I was listening to Paul Merson, he was covering the game, and he was like, Chelsea doing brilliant, thoroughly deserved to be in the lead, playing some really good stuff. And then second half, he said it looks like they've changed shirts, because it was a completely different side. They changed the system, didn't they? They went to a three at the back, sort of matched Brentford up, and that seemed to work. So I just think sometimes with young players, you do get those inconsistencies. You look back to the final last week where they had opportunities to win that final in the 90 minutes. They played well at times, but then extra time, they just didn't perform to the levels that Chelsea fans want them to perform to.
I wasn't in the changing room at half-time. That might come as a shock, but I'm kind of pretty sure that Pochettino didn't say to his players, I'll tell you what, you've done really well in that first half. Go out and be rubbish in the second half. Did he? So
I wouldn't have thought so.
No. So how does this happen? Because it's the third time this season Chelsea have conceded within 5 minutes of the second half starting. So what can you put that down to?
Well, one of the things that we often talk about on the show is complacency. Is it a complacency from Chelsea that the game was too easy in the first half and they thought that they could win it at a canter? The big thing is, if we were to go back over all the shows that we've done this year, we said that this would happen. We said that Chelsea will be up and down all season just because of the nature of the contracts the players are on, the youthful players that they've got, Pochettino trying to find his best team, injuries that they've got. And there's so much going on behind the scenes at Chelsea as well, still. With the ownership and the way it's happened, that you just wonder how much pressure he's under at the moment. Pochettino, will he be given time? I hope he does get given time, because I think we've seen from Chelsea at times this year, some of the football he plays is brilliant, but it's being consistent. That's the hardest part of any team, is being consistent.
So is it the lack of, if you think of the great Chelsea teams of recent history, and even if you go back to the likes of Ron Harris being in your team, but if you think more recent for our younger viewers, is it that spine of the team that had Terry, Lampard, Drogba in that side, that the players wouldn't get away with dropping in intensity at any moment in a game?
Well, that's what we always look to, isn't it? You always look to the spine and you say, is that spine strong? Do they have real characters and real leaders? Looking back at Liverpool, you say when Van Dijk is there, of course, Van Dijk's a brilliant player, but you see him constantly talking to players, left and right, people in front of him, having that communication. So, of course, that's what you need. And when you've got a young side like that, you've had so much change on and off the field, it's going to have an impact, and at times consistency won't be where you want it to be, because we have said that, there's been runs of Chelsea where we've said, Chelsea are picking up results and performances are looking good, and then suddenly they dip again, and unfortunately that's where you do need those experienced heads maybe in the dressing room or on the pitch to see them through.
I'd say the other side of it is as well, there was a fear element with Chelsea when they were successful, and the fear was that they knew that it could all be replaced, because Abramovich was so quick to make decisions about managers, about players. And if they wanted them out, they'd get them out. They didn't care. They just got them out. These players are on 7-year, 8-year contracts now. You ain't getting them out as easy. So they know they're in a comfort zone. That's a completely different mindset in a game. And that's where they're going to have issues as well.
OK, so we gathered that Pochettino didn't tell them to go out and underperform in the second half. I think we kind of did that one. They haven't got the leaders that they had because they're all quite young. And also this idea of long contracts as well. So having put all those three things into the mix, because the Chelsea fans at Brentford at the weekend turned on Pochettino. Is it fair to blame Pochettino for what is happening at Stamford Bridge right now?
He has to take an element of it because he's the manager. So what you're trying to achieve on the pitch, but we're not in the changing room, we're not in the training ground to see what they're working on, what they're trying to achieve on the pitch. But again, I go back to there's great signs at times. So I believe that the players are the ones that need to take accountability for it at the moment. But then there's also the side of it of you look towards the manager because he's your leader, effectively. But then I go to the actual ownership and go, but you haven't helped the management by putting them on long contracts.
I mean, that banner there,
it's a vicious cycle.
That's one of the best banners I've ever seen at a football ground.
Yeah, it says it all, doesn't it? And it says what the fans are feeling at the moment, that they're frustrated, that they're not seeing the players really fighting for the shirt. So, yeah, I think it goes back to small margins, doesn't it? You go back to the final last week and you think, if Chelsea, which we have said on a number of occasions, if they put their chances away when they get those opportunities, they win the game against Liverpool, they win a trophy, is it then all change? Because then suddenly there's a little bit more of that unity together. You've just won something, you've got that togetherness. They then go on and then win the next game because of that. But they lose it, and then it's the trying to bounce back. They obviously beat Leeds, but it probably wasn't that much of a convincing performance, but they still won. So it is very small margins, isn't it? If they'd have won that, would we be talking differently about them? Probably would. Because
in the second half of that Leeds game, they allowed Leeds back into it. You didn't know at the time whether that was purely this sort of hangover from the weekend. They've had extra time in their legs and were trying to get over that, or whether it was a mentality thing. The problem Pochettino has got here, Stephen, is that if the fans are calling for his fifth, but they're also turning on the owners, inevitably the owners act to cover themselves.
100% they do. And that's what you do when you own a football club. You've got that power to be able to do that. Pochettino's in a situation now where he's hoping that results will change on the pitch and that he picks up results. The one thing that you want to see is continuity within a football club, and you want that ability to give Pochettino time to be able to build a team spirit within the changing room. How often do we look at clubs and you go, in hindsight, you look at it more so from years ago, where you go, it was so tough at the beginning of a manager's reign, but down the line you see the fruits of it and you go, I'm glad they stuck with him. And I get that feeling with Pochettino, where I think it'll be better next season onwards.
Well, with Mikel Arteta at Arsenal.
I mean,
they were calling for his head, and he just won the FA Cup, so...
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's the thing when you look at the recruitment and the way that they've brought players in and they've put them on these really long contracts, they're young players, they clearly are trying to build for the future, aren't they? So you think if you then start chopping and changing managers, bringing another one in...
Different ideas again.
Of course it is, yeah. Well, so it just doesn't seem to work.
Because Chelsea fans were calling not only for the return of Roman Abramovich, and, OK, I don't think that's going to happen, but they were also calling for the return of Jose Mourinho. But this squad, yes, I can understand that, the success in his first spell in particular, 2005, 2006, amazing times. Yeah. But is Jose Mourinho the manager he was in 2005-06? And is this squad the sort of squad that Jose Mourinho normally manages?
For me, no. No, I think you've got to move on from it. I think you've got to go back for a third spell would be incredible for him, but from a nostalgic point of view. But I just don't think it's the right fit. I think you've just got to say that period in the history of Chelsea's gone, and you've got to look forward. Would his style of management work on a squad like that? It might do. It might be something that galvanises the squad. But I still think you've got to give Pochettino the opportunity. Yeah,
because when he came in, that's what we said, wasn't it? We said he's the right fit for the squad that they've got. He develops young players, he gets the best out of them. But with that, you probably will need a little bit of time. So I can understand the Chelsea fans' frustrations, because it must be difficult to watch a team like that. But at the same time, you just think he does need that period to work with the players, get the players back fit and see what happens next season.